Mutations. Can you tell us a little bit about the title and how you chose it?
Yeah. So I guess the idea is of sort of common items and how they shift via interactions with them, mostly in the digital space. So this is kind of like my relationship with the environment around me via the internet, and how the internet ends up sort of changing the domestic space. And I guess that's kind of like the I would say like the mutation is sort of like a gene. So there's kind of the idea of the internet or the digital space being like a mutation gene that comes into your physical space and ends up changing the domestic objects around you. So this is kind of like, because most of the things here are sort of mutated domestic objects in a way. So yeah, I guess that's like at its most basic. That's my idea behind it.
Because you have a background from many places. You lived around the world, and also, I don't know, researching from different perspectives. Can you tell us a little bit about where you're from, and also maybe how that has had an impact on your art?
I mean, yeah. So originally I'm from Moscow, and I grew up in the States. And then when my family moved back to Russia, I moved to Australia after high school. So and then I left Australia 10 years ago as well. So kind of from everywhere and from nowhere in a way. And then I feel like that's ends up being this sort of constant liminal state where you never feel entirely comfortable anywhere. So yeah, I mean, at its most direct way, I mean, this is like, you know, using Russian in the works itself. And it's mostly like fairly, for those that speak Russian, it's like fairly like outrageous statements in Russian, I guess, like combining two expressions, this, like the statement of Russian pride, which is like Россия mать, you know, combining it with mать твою, which is like fuck off. It's kind of like this wordplay that kind of sort of reflective of my confusing relationship with my birthplace in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are slogans on these scarves, you know, not only Russian, but also English ones. Yeah. Almost right. Activist, investor, and it's also sublimation, where I'll go, we'll all go. Yeah. Where did you take them from?
Yeah, so this is kind of like basically how I make these scarves. Is I have a website that does this synthetic digital weaving in Germany for like scarves that like football ultra fans or hooligans make this is the website that makes it for them. It's like it's quite cheap and it's done fairly quickly. So I think if you order it in Germany, you can have it 2 days later. Here, like in Norway, you wait like 2 weeks maybe. So I kind of as I spend like hours on Reddit, like going through this ideas or like internet thing, I get like ideas and it's kind of free association. And so I try to make them as quickly as possible before I can change my mind, sort of in a way.
Yeah.
So then also ends up with like things that I'm not entirely comfortable with looking at now, like where I'll go, we all go. At the time I was like, it's so clever, algorithm based online shopping and stuff. And now I'm like, was that too clever, you know? But part of it is not allowing myself to have that thing, you know, like I try to make them like as soon as I have the ideas. So.
Yeah.
And then kind of like going down these like Reddit holes with like researching the Anthropocene or investments and all this stuff. And then you end like all this mixed language, and then how, like activist investor is a language taken from, it's basically like the finance community taking language from activism and using it for something completely opposite, which is like, because an activist investor is someone who buys a part of a company and takes it over from the inside by using their controlling interest in the company. But then the language is taken from something entirely different. So,
I kind of like that you do that you have these really direct messages built into the art, like, and you don't need to think about it so hard. And because I know you do a lot of research, you read a lot of books, and you're really political. And I think that's one of the strengths to your artistic practice, that it's so direct, and it's because it's also so meshed, you know. Everything is, I don't know, stirred in a huge pot, you know. A lot of things from your background, but also from different I don't know, ideas and ideologies, ideology, sorry. And I guess as somebody who just looks at the art, needs also that it's quite direct to be able to understand and get something from it. So,
yeah, I guess it's kind of like a direct expression. Like, you know, I guess with all the influences, I'm pretty confused myself, and I think this is kind of really said that pretty directly. You know,
yeah,
just
aren't we all? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So, and this is almost my favorite. This towel, like a beach towel, and you showed it earlier at podium on a sunbed, and now it's more, I don't know, just put on the
well, it is like a
up
cushion from a sunbed behind it.
Yeah,
that we found in the basement. But
and some lightweight reading on the side.
I mean,
Can you tell us about the books?
I mean, that actually, I mean, I only like there's only one book there.
Okay,
Communist, because that's the book that was originally like kind of like the idea behind that. That is actually pretty light reading. I mean, it was written in a way for the common man who was not super literate to understand, and I mean, you can read that in less than an hour, really. Like, and
just tell us what the title is and everything.
Permanent Vacation is the title of the work, but the book is the Communist Manifesto. And like, in a way, this is like a humorous take on champagne socialism, if you know that, of this idea of being sort of benefiting from financial structures, but also being against them at the same time, which is like a privileged position that's
like Norwegians.
Not. I really actually don't think that Norwegians are like that at all. But it's more like, it is more of a comment on some people that you kind of run into going to art openings and the conversations you end up having. And, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's good. And we also have the IKEA bookshelf, which is called Billy, the most sold item on IKEA, I guess, or
in the history of IKEA. I think it's 80 million. It's in the history of furniture, actually. 80 million items. And
first you made it from IKEA shelves, but now you made it in Valkromat, which is like this dense MDF material, which is has color and is colored through. It's really good material, I guess. And but you've made them. You can just tell us about the work and the shelves. You know, the how they go up and are more and more spaced and narrower together.
Yeah, I mean, that's thanks to the mathematic formula that Maria here came up with. Originally that's kind of I took a trip to the IKEA museum, and like I guess it's almost 2 years ago now, in this Elmhult, the place where IKEA is based, and some of the works are kind of inspired by that trip, and staying at the IKEA hotel and going to the IKEA training center, pretending that I might be someone who actually works for IKEA, and
or being an IKEA tourist.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah, because I guess that is the thing. I guess we were IKEA tourists, and and then realizing that the Billy shelf is so, like, people just want it out of their house, and if you look on Gisbort, within 5 kilometers of your house anywhere in Norway, there's like 15, 20, 25, 30 people just giving them away. People just want you to take them out of your house. So and they're like extremely low quality. And then so I wanted to see how many of them I can put on top of each other before the structure starts collapsing. And the last version that was made out of the real one was like 47 shelves, and you know, and yeah, then when I was taking it apart at Podium, actually it started falling apart and it started breaking in half and stuff, because that's what, like, it's made out of this very I think we were talking about that, how IKEA has this thing now where you
with
can
the commercial.
they have these billboards where like you can recycle your IKEA, and they like kind of recycle it and sell it again, but for cheaper. But it's I think it's kind of it's impossible for that to be true.
Yeah, it's totally,
because you cannot recycle a billy that's been sitting outside; it will fall apart into fragments. So, and this was like a way of making it out of more high quality material, like a more monolithic, unbreakable version of it in a way.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. And also the imagery in the commercial is also outside. So you find this imagery being outside, and it's been rained on, and everybody knows that one drop of water, it will just swell and just destroy the whole polished surface. Yeah.
Which is in a way kind of like ties all together. Like the anthropocynical scarf is also a comment on that. This kind of like everyone taking this discourse about the world is ending, so we all have to do our part to make sure it doesn't happen. And I guess that's IKEA. They have several programs like that, but in reality, it's just kind of a veneer. It's just It's just to make a better image on themselves, I guess. And then the last pieces are behind us, and there's this apron where you had images from the X-Files. Yeah. And a band episode, right? Yeah, it's an episode that was like, there's only 2 episodes of X-Files that were ever banned. One is about like cannibals that eat children. That was very graphic, and people complained about that. So then in a lot of countries they didn't show it. And then this episode is about a town where everyone works for a chicken factory, chicken processing plant, and they really showed the chicken. They filmed in an actual chicken facility, and it was like really beautifully shot. And then and people couldn't handle the raw chicken being shown in such a like direct way. So they got thousands of complaints, because it's in the 90s when people still called the TV station and wrote letters or whatever. So they edited it out, and they took those parts that are on that apron out of the episode, because people couldn't handle the idea of seeing the chicken, and it was just really
they couldn't handle their own reality, you know.
So in a way, I don't know if this is like vegan propaganda or something, but I just really also thought that it was like, it's kind of crazy that that's the parts of that episode that they took out, because they're really beautifully shot. Like it's so artistic, and whoever the director of that episode was, it's like really good work. So yeah. And I had been working with chicken in my studio. Like I made a mold of a chicken, and I was like, and the apron is hanging on an epoxy
resin.
Yeah, an epoxy resin, half a chicken that was a mold of an actual roast chicken from Yoker.
Yeah. And you also have this small handbag that has a picture
of the Yoker bag.
Yoker handbag.
Yeah.
And it looks really gross, but in reality, you know, when you go in the shop there, and then you don't think about it, perhaps. Yeah.
And I've been taking that bag to shop at the supermarket, and I think people really kind of are surprised by it. I think they, children pointing at it.
Yeah. And it's also the Caravaggio work, 2 silk scarves. That are really beautifully laid out on display here, like in a Hermes shop or something. And tell us about how you worked with the imagery there.
I mean, that's actually printed on like Hermes grade silk, which is like kind of part of it, but kind of in a way, I thought that work fits into this whole narrative, because it's like each image is a blending of 2 Caravaggios. It's So which is, I think people don't realize it. It's like I was testing and putting it on Instagram, and people are like, oh, that's my favorite Caravaggio. But actually the faces are from one Caravaggio, and the rest of the thing is from a different Caravaggio. And if you look at them after I said that, then it's really obvious because they're like beautiful young men. And why would they have these really disturbed faces in that context? Because the actual faces are like really docile and pretty and just... And one of them is from the Medusa, and the other one is from this biblical scene with severed heads and everyone looking super intense.
Yeah.
And
it gets a bit funny even, you know, when you look at it, because it's this man holding a fruit bowl, and he's like, you know, he has this expression on his face like the fruit is freaking him totally out, or it's deadly or something. And
Yeah, because that's from the severed Medusa painting, like which is the circular Caravaggio a lot of people are familiar with. The other one is more subtle, but he still looks extremely uncomfortable. And the actual one is a very like docile smile, very relaxed. Yeah.
So you always have this. I don't think it's like an underlying kind of humor in all your works that or black humor, I guess. Like yes. A bit of a distance in that, but also that it makes the works more relatable, I think.
I think for me, maybe it's a bit of a comfort zone as having things being a bit funny, but I don't know, rather than distancing, I think it is more that it's kind of like a way to the audience rather than pushing them away. I think humor makes things a bit more palatable somehow.
Yeah, I think so too. And in the vault, we have two works. It's this Yin Yang Table in the same Valchromat material, which you had sewn really precise. Tell us about that work.
Yeah, so actually that work is me watching the film Fight Club like a year ago, and there's a scene while I was doing the Billy blueprint.
The IKEA.
And then it's the scene where everything turns into an IKEA catalog, and he has a Yin Yang table in that. So I really got the idea to make a Yin Yang table from that. Then I did research about it, and actually in Danish modernism, there was a huge proliferation of different kinds of yin yang tables. It was like kind of like an Orientalist revival at some point in the 50s, where everyone was making yin yang tables. And so I kind of wanted to make a version that really took away the entire meaning of the yin yang and in this red, which is kind of the opposite of the entire concept of the yin yang. And whether that's cultural appropriation or not, I'll leave up to others to say. But and then I wanted to also like kind of the same as with that Billy. It's like they're kind of domestic objects, but I wanted to strip their usability away from them. So by having the shelves really close to each other, and then by having the holes drilled through it, and then it separates into two pieces, and half the table ends up being extremely thin. You can't really use more than half of it as a table if you have it as a coffee table.
Yeah.
It's kind of important to me that even though they're functional pieces of furniture, that they're also not fully functional.
Yeah. Because with all these things, you could easily just sell them and make like 100 towels and sell them. Many artists do that, but you don't want to do that. You told me.
I mean, I have done that.
You want to keep them as unique as like unique objects.
I guess I'm kind of interested in this whole thing of making work. If you make like a merchandise work rather than a painting that you took 40 hours to paint, but you know, this is like a towel that was printed digitally, and but if you still make one, this kind of relationship between what is what's
original,
the value of the value of labor in you know, in one versus the other, and
So you think it kind of reduces the value if you make more of them?
I mean, probably, but I think to a lot of people, because it's a towel to begin with, it already has an inherent reduced value.
Oh yeah,
I'm kind of interested in that.
It makes you think anyway. When there is only one of this towel, or the shower curtain, or the scarf, or and quite cheap objects in reality. And you also do performance work and video work, and the last piece is the spooky campfire stories, where you burn your passport, and you burned 3 of your passports. That's quite strong. What do you do? Like when you travel?
No, I guess every time I don't have an idea for an artwork, I just burn another document. That's my fallback space. But I mean, I got a new Australian passport that I had to get in Denmark because Australia doesn't have a consulate service in Norway.
Yeah.
So, but that work kind of was inspired by the IKEA museum as well. It was made like the week after because the voiceover is an audiobook recording of the book that the founder of IKEA was reading at the time of his death. At the IKEA museum, they had his nightstand and the book that he was reading at the time and his little box of snus that he was snoozing, and it was all like preserved there. So the book is the autobiography of what was his name? Alan Greenspan. It was the head of the Federal Reserve at the sort of the turn of the century, and the former disciple and boyfriend of Ayn Rand also. So in a way, he's the one who introduced that kind of extreme neoliberal ideas into mainstream finance, and it's been globalized since then. Yeah.
But it's a fictional book, right?
It's not a fictional book. It's just an autobiography about. In the voiceover there, he's talking about like his experience while 9/11 was happening, and he was on a private plane going to Zurich to meet with a banking conference. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's what Ingvar Kamprad was reading, mostly books like that, because the other books on his nightstand were like, I think the book was called "We Should Be Afraid of China." And it was all like this kind of, it was all this very particular direction of text. Like,
yeah. It's a bit disturbing to think about.
Yeah, and because he's the most successful Scandinavian businessman of all time, it's kind of it's a bit interesting.
I forgot that's one last work, and it's this very small doormat.
Yeah. And
it's from your wife's dream. Tell us about that.
That's true. So the idea was because I was making all these pieces of merchandise in these hyper colors, and at the same time I was reading Markens Gröde, the Hamsun book.
Yeah.
And then Maria had a dream about a doormat that said "Jeg nekter inte arbeid," and then I just kind of thought it was like a way of like directly physicalizing this dream in the context of the rest of the exhibition, and somehow connects to the sublimation scarf. Like it all kind of like really links together in that way. Yeah.
I must say also that like I think the dream was mainly based on you and I having so many sensitive talks on labor laws after visiting the IKEA museum, and kind of like the value of labor, is that something that you are confronted with very directly as, a foreigner in Norway. So I think it was a lot of subliminal priming into my dreamscape.
Yeah, subliminal priming is also, it's a good title for something.
Yeah. I think, do you have anything more that you would like to say, or I could make you ask some questions, maybe, if there are any.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions.
Then I would have to use my small mic. Are there any questions? No, that's all right. I think we'd quite
translate the shower curtain.
Okay,
That's the only thing I haven't understood yet.
Yeah, so that's like it's like the companion piece to the towel in a way, I think, because since this one is just lie there and roast yourself, you neoliberal pig, and this is свяжи себя, свинья, купаясь в той же грязи, которая уже покрывает тебя. So it's like refresh yourself, you pig, bathing in the same filth that already covers you. And it's like a reimagining of some Russian statements and expressions from some texts, and kind of like I made my own version of them, basically. Yeah.
I have a question. Because there's not only the Alan Greenspan audio in that video,
Yeah.
right? There's another layer.
Yeah.
Do you want to say something about
Okay. Yeah, that's like an Australian bush, like a live recording of an Australian bushfire.
Yeah.
So once again, tying to the whole anthropocynical and making work about the sort of the planet falling apart, and like actually caring about it, but also in a way making work about it is kind of has a sort of a cynical essentiality in it, and including my own work there, because that was at the time of the largest bushfire in like modern Australian history. So burning an Australian passport representative, putting that, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's kind of layers of very obvious things, and yeah, my kind of hope is by layering so many things together, then it turns into something beyond that. Yeah. Mm.
Why did you give the Alan Greenspan voice, like an anonymous internet activist voice?
I think it's not his. It's like whoever, like, but I just like warped the voice. I slowed it down and added like some effects to it too, because I think Alan Greenspan is kind of a ridiculous character. So I like, it felt wrong to just have it playing in like a very serious voice that like it felt like it needed. I kind of find him to be like a kind of a comedic character. Like Ayn Rand's ex-lover becomes the most important banker in the history of the world. It's like, kind of find that there's some comedy to this kind of story.
Well, I think we should give you a toast and some flowers, because yeah, it's been really great that
Yeah, thank you.
you could come and give us all this wonderful.
Tack ska du ha. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.